Folks at home, ladies and germs, how are you doing to another episode here of the True Patriot Outfitters podcast? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have been hot and heavy on the interview series. As a lot of you know, we made announcements early on with 23 here about some new sponsorships, some new partners we're working together with. We stay committed to the Romans Warrior Foundation. With that, we're collaborating with them. And still part of the family there and working. And one of those cool instances that kind of brought some worlds together was our guest that we have here this evening on the show. Q Incorporated, Ironborn Barbecue Sauces. You're going to thank me later when I say get over to the website, get to their Facebook page, check them out. We tested this stuff out, and dude, it is off the charts. Well, we have the man behind the curtain with that joining us tonight. Brian, welcome to the show, my man. Thank you for joining us here.
Thanks, Gene.
Awesome stuff. Now, pronounce your last name so I don't murder it.
Sergesketter.
Sergesketter.
Yep.
That sounds very Viking.
German.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
You know, that's a small, Europe's small, so they're all kind of, they're real close
Right.
together over there.
Right.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. I appreciate you and I had a chance to chat on the phone a while. We are of like mind when it comes to doing our part as patriots and citizens out there to support those around us here. And that's what kind of led our paths together, man.
Yeah, I'm met Brian last year and just been really excited to be a part of it. And met you. We haven't met in person yet, but
this is kind of in person.
Right. Through the miracle of technology, we know one another now.
That's right. So, yeah. So, one of the other connections we have here that kind of led to Q jumping on board with us is one of our program managers, Dave White, who leads up the Hoosiers with Hearts disaster relief team. That's a part of the Romans Warrior Foundation network. And Dave is that you described him this way, Brian, to me, and I've been using this. I've been getting a ton of miles out of it. He's pretty much in his neck of the woods. Dave is like the backyard barbecue Jesus, around those parts. Yep. And that was the mutual connection. Dave used some of your product. He was impressed with you, and that's what led right to meeting Brian Romans in that. Tell that story with Dave. That was super, super cool.
So let me back up 1 year prior to that. I actually met Brian, and we didn't really know who each other were. So my very first time on the scene with barbecue competitors was at the one at West Boggs Hog Days, and it was in 2021, if I remember right. Year prior to the one that I met Brian at. And I introduced my sauce to a team that we're now sponsoring, Ridge Bros. And, since then they were still in their infancy as far as competitors go. And they've just, they've exploded since then, and they've been very successful. But
that's awesome.
They took to the sauce really quickly. And I actually met Brian, and he and I just, it was an exchange of, I went and got the container that they give you out the samples so that you can do the People's Choice Award. Mm-hmm. I just met him right there, just a couple seconds. And then, it was high and by. But then, 1 year after that at the same event, we became connected, and then here we are. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So the Ridge Brothers, they were competing in 2022 at the Lagodi Summerfest, and Lagoti's 20 miles from me. So anytime they're within striking distance, we actually had a wedding that day, so I couldn't spend very much time over there. So I went over there just to show some support. I took a little bit of sauce to them, and then they introduced me to Jordan Arnold from Ain't Bad Barbecue, and then Dave White, and he gave Dave a little bit of what he had, and Dave just basically just took the bottle and kind of like drank a little, just took a shot right out of the bottle. And he, it was like somebody took Dave and hit the pause button, because he just like stood there for a second And he's like, oh my God. He said, this is amazing. And so Dave actually switched out his, whatever he was using for his People's Choice that day. He used Formula 151 and won People's Choice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
with his barbecue and your sauce, throwing it down like that. Yep. Well, I can tell you, the label on the 151, Carolina Q, it truly is, clearly you can tell by my grocery tumor that I carry around. I don't miss much barbecue. If it's out there, I'm gonna try at it and enjoy it. And this Carolina Q truly is this blend of, it's not stuck to one region. It's like this weird own little existence that's got a little North Carolina to it, a little South Carolina, a little Kansas City in there. It's got everything kind of, coming together that makes its own unique and just amazing flavor, man. Everything we've put this on, it has been phenomenal on it.
Yeah.
I did up some meat the other night, and then we had some chopped up, roasted potatoes on the side. I ended up putting this stuff on the potatoes too, man. I'm just like, it.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
Yeah. When we do just a pot of vegetables on the stove, I'll put a couple tablespoons of it in there just to give it just a little bit. It just gives it just a little bit of
now,
something.
For folks at home that don't know the difference on this stuff, this is it's not like the thick barbecue sauce that you buy in the grocery store off the shelves. Right. This type is different. It's it's more thin than that.
Right.
What makes it and what constitutes that for a barbecue sauce to be thin like that?
So because we're online and we may get crucified by the good people of North Carolina. I'm from Indiana, and so I basically what was introduced to me as a North Carolina style vinegar sauce. That's what I wanted to duplicate. And what led me down that path was I tried to buy something that tasted similar to what I had experienced at a restaurant.
I see.
And I couldn't find it for like 6 months. My wife, there's 30 bottles of barbecue sauce in the refrigerator and she was getting mad. So I thought, well, at some point I'm going to have to make it myself. So I started off with a lot of research. I started to understand, I just thought like everybody else, it's not from a region that doesn't have boots on the ground somewhere, that a North Carolina vinegar sauce was a North Carolina vinegar sauce. And that is truly not the case. There's an Eastern style and a Western style primarily. Now there's, like everything else in the world, there's 100 variations of both of those, but primarily the Eastern style and the Western style come down to almost a county line division in what their preferences are. Okay. And if I had to choose between one of them, I'd probably line up with the Eastern crowd. And you think my sauce is liquid, it's extremely liquid. It's basically the viscosity of water because it's just basically apple cider vinegar. Some guys use straight vinegar. Some guys use a little bit of both, but basically vinegar, some crushed red pepper, some pepper, a little bit of like hot sauce, like they use like Texas Pete in North Carolina, which is not from Texas. It's from North Carolina. Don't ever get caught thinking it's one of them that is from Texas.
They should be called not from Texas Pete.
Right. And not Texas Pete. Yeah.
Not from.
So that's going to give you a little bit of color, but mostly an Eastern sauce is like squirt bottle and you drizzle it, on your pulled pork or use it as a mop sauce. It's nothing you're going to ever slather with.
Right.
It's just, it's not that. Western is some of that, and then they kind of get a little bit more of that Kansas City or even maybe Tennessee with adding in the brown sugar, and the ketchup. So, okay. I actually was watching one of the famous YouTubers that does barbecue one time, and I was watching one of his videos, and this eureka moment hit me because at that point I was on like Formula 60, with this. And for those of you that don't know, it's called Formula 151 because what is in the bottle is the 151st written down recipe, 151st attempt at recreating the flavor that I want. And I actually ended up, for my own taste, shot past the flavor that I was looking for and came up with something quite a bit better because back to the YouTube video, I saw 3 different guys in one day take 2 of their sauces that they offer and combine them 50-50.
Oh, wow.
And right then I thought, well, what would happen if I had some Eastern in the refrigerator and some Western in the refrigerator. And I thought, what would happen if I put those 2 together? And what happened when I did was the universe exploded.
You realized you needed goggles to mix those things together.
Right. After my toenails flew off, I got out some Band-Aids and I got to work. And then it took, it still took forever because of kind of the nature of the Eastern, it just kept being too hot. And the other big thing was when you add a salt content to this sauce and you add a salt content to this sauce and then you put them together, then you've, in some cases, it's not always, it doesn't happen with all of them, but in some cases you double that intensity. Well, on some of those things like the vinegar, that intensity is part of what gave Formula 151 its taste, but it was too salty and then it was too spicy and then it was too sweet. And again, I never set out to sell this sauce. I was only making it for myself. So when I say it was too salty, too sweet, too spicy, I'm talking about for me because I never really cared what anybody else thought about it. And then just after making barbecue and making barbecue for friends, people wouldn't leave me alone about making it for them. So
hold on a second. Let's hit the brakes real quick here. This is a point of the story that struck me a while back. And this is the part where I was like, okay, this dude and I need to go fishing together. We need to hang out because I think we may be related somewhere down the line. And I'm talking about you because keep in mind, folks, you went through all this with no intention of selling this. This was you just looking for a good barbecue sauce.
Yeah. All I wanted was something better than what I could get at the store.
That's hardcore, man. That is freaking awesome because, I give up after about 2 or 3, decisions on what to eat, and I'm ordering pizza. You know what I mean? Dude, that was tenacious. Your commitment to this. So,
I gotta admit, I don't want to make it sound like I locked myself in a lab somewhere and didn't shave and take a bath for 3 years
without toenails.
Yeah, so it was over a 3-year period of I never gave up on it. And
I was going to say that's persistence, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So what got you to the point of going, you know what? This stuff's so damn good that, we should sell this online. We should sell this to people because this is going to be a hit. What led to that?
Camping at a campground. I was camping at that lake I was telling you about that you need to come up and fish.
Yes, sir.
Here in our county.
Got it.
And I had, I always take my smoker camping, and we have a big, I take half of what we own, just for a weekend. And a guy that always comes around for barbecue, he's like, hey, he goes, what barbecue sauce is that? And I said, oh, here. And I gave him some to put on more of his barbecue. And I said, I make it. And he goes, you're kidding me. And I said, no. I said, I make that. And he goes, how much? And I go, for what? And he said, I want to buy some of that from you. And I'm like, what? This isn't for sale. I just make it because I like it. That's where it started. And then that was probably a year of people being like, no, dude, it's that good. You need to do something with this. Because I never, it's not that I don't personally believe that it's great. I do, but that was never my intention. So it took a while to not wrap my head around the fact that I believed in myself enough to do it, just wrap myself around doing it, period, because it was never on my mind
to
make it a product up until that moment.
Well, and you had a full-time job doing something probably completely
Yep.
different.
Yep.
You know,
So at the time, I had still have the full-time day job working for the local municipality. I had a landscape business with 3 crews and this. So, the joke was I worked part-time, 50 hours a week for the municipality and then owned a business. You know what that sounds like.
yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir, we do. That,
Yeah.
yeah, the other night in that vein, woke up about 2:30 in the morning, and I had been just crunching through something in my head. 2:30, I come out of my bedroom, I get in front of my desk here, and I start typing, and I get this stuff out of my head. I woke up at about 4 o'clock in the morning, slumped over, like dang, you're drooling on my desk here. I fell asleep with the stupid keyboard. And what was amazing is everything was still legible on my screen. The words that I typed out actually worked.
Right.
I just quit
Right.
at that point. So yeah, I got you there. It gets you sometimes with that and that obsession. So yeah, man. So this, our introduction to the 151 sauce was this year with Roman's Warrior Foundation when we were at the wall at Shields. And Brian received had it actually sent to my house via the United States male soccer team, chumps.
Right.
Oh man, that box. I mean, it's got fragile written all over the box, warning glass contents, this and this. And the cheap little punks, they knew they busted it, one of the bottles in there because it was all over the box. They wrapped it in a plastic bag, stuck in a container, and then like door ditched me. They ding dong and took off. And by the time I got to the door and saw this thing sitting there, I'm like, well, what's that? I bring it in and I'm looking at that, then
I knew that it broke, but I didn't know that that they'd done that to you.
Oh yeah. So I documented the heck out of it. I got all the pictures, sent them to Brian. I was like, here, call, these guys up, get some reimbursement on that. But that was our first intro to your sauce, man. And like I said, the first one that I did it on, I actually did, we used the sauce on some chicken and it was phenomenal. Just, dipping it in there. Then you gave me a sample of that rub to test out. And I tried it again on chicken. Not bad, but like you say, and you even give that suggestion, it does overpower the chicken a little bit. That rub does.
You have to use it very, very lightly.
Yeah.
Very lightly.
But when you go pork or beef, dude, out of there. Go ahead and, coat that bad boy up, drop it on the smoker. Or I know I'm about to, like, you say you're going to get North Carolina. I'm going to get the whole group of the barbecue guys at me. I do own a Traeger. I'm sorry. I mean, I live in suburbia, USA.
I have two of them. I have two of them.
I used to smoke a long time ago, real wood, but I just don't have the facility to do that here. So we Traegered up, and it's autopilot.
Right. So I'll tell you, this is probably going to get a lot of clicks, but hate clicks, but people bang on the Traegers and the pellet grills. Nobody makes fun of Matt Pittman on Meat Church or Malcolm Reed on How to Barbecue Right or Heath Riles. Yeah. Nobody ever says anything to those guys whenever they use a pellet grill. So
sure. And I do prefer the natural wood smoke. There's no question.
Most people just can't babysit all that.
Dude, that's the thing. For me, I tell people this, you got to work hard to ruin something on a Traeger. It is pretty much dummy proof, which
especially
is why
if you can people get the probe in it and then have that on Wi-Fi. You almost can't fail.
Yeah. Yeah. The only advice I give people is just give it time, because it doesn't cook like an actual grill. It's more like an oven in a way.
Right. Yeah, it's an oven with some smoke flavor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, that's that pork and beef stuff. Now, so the 151, that stuff's like cosmic. You gotta, folks at home, you absolutely have to try that stuff. QUEINC.com. Go out there. Or actually, it's QIncorporated.com. That's the website, and you'll see that there. But now you've introduced a new line to your website that's actually that's not on the custom level. It's a little bit more I don't know what's the best word to describe the other line.
Well, probably maybe grocery store level, I guess.
Maybe stuff that folks are more accustomed to type thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually, this is going to sound crazy that 2 barbecue sauce brands are in a town of 10,000, but that's actually another barbecue sauce brand from here in my hometown.
That's awesome.
And the guy that owned it, he bought it from the original owner who had it going, I think, about 8 or 9 years. And he bought it because the original owner was getting up there in age and kind of was thinking about stepping aside from it. And he didn't want it to go away. He's a barbecue competitor. He's a caterer, barbecue enthusiast. He didn't want the brand to go away, so he bought it. Well, when he did, he probably jumped in a little bit over his head in that type of business. And I'd say he probably had it about 3 months. And he just messaged me one night and said, excuse me, he said, would you like to buy me out? And I messaged him back and I said, well, I'd like to talk about it. And here we are. So,
well, and it's clearly got to be good tasting stuff. It's been around, man, and people have sought after it. You guys have agreed to, keep it going. You're a dude of solid integrity that clearly, puts a time and energy behind, the 151. So this stuff's got to be tasty. It's just, obviously of a different taste, different level.
Yeah, it's if you wanted to call if you wanted to call Formula 151 like a competition level flavor as far as intensity goes,
yep.
It's really more of Johnny's is more of probably a backyard pitmaster level.
Yeah.
It's actually won some awards. It's actually won a few competitions. My very first, I've been in 2 now. My very first competition, I placed 3rd in ribs. And the guy that I bought Johnny's from placed 2nd in ribs.
Nice.
And used, I think the peach is what he told me that he used on his ribs. So, Formula 151 came in 2nd to peach at that competition. So,
wow, good stuff.
But I think that some of that was his level. He'd already been competing for many, many years, and he had a lot of the skills of the trade under his belt that, my very first competition, I didn't have some of those skill sets. You can be really, really good. And if you don't, competition's a whole nother animal. And it's just, it just takes repetition and practice and understanding the flavors and the types of things that judges want to see and taste. So
that's awesome. So I actually have a barbecue, story myself. This was probably, oh my gracious, we're 10, 15 years ago. Probably 15 years ago, if I think about it, maybe 18 years ago. It was a long time ago. I had been going to a place to get my the meat that I'd use because I had started smoking on this little electric smoker. I had a chance to do some charcoal stuff, and for my taste, I preferred the electric element that would work the chips or the wood chunks themselves, just because I could keep my temperature consistent, right? It didn't take much work for me to keep because I knew right where that dial was at, where I was going to keep it. All I had to do is maintain the chips and keep them from lighting on fire, type deal.
Right.
So I had started getting into that, and it was up in Fort Collins, Colorado, when I was there. And Mike's Meat Market is where I had found a place for just good quality meats. They were kind of a local meat market. All their stuff was coming out of, it was regional, I should say. It was coming out of Sterling, Colorado, out on the eastern plains there. And they source their beef out of Kansas and Nebraska, Colorado, just the region here. And got to know those guys super well, man. I was always in there picking up something and trying this, trying that. Well, I go in there one day and I'm telling the guy about some of my, the big breakthrough I had was that I stopped approaching smoking meats like a science, and I realized and accepted the fact that it's an art. So, I just started kind of free flowing with stuff and not being so stringent on things. And he goes, dude, there is a benefit coming up, and it's a rib barbecue rib competition where all proceeds are going to raised are going to go to helping TBI victims, of traumatic brain injury. He goes, would you do up some ribs for us and go as our sponsored guy for this? And I'm like, dude, I work at the USDA, man. I'm a computer nerd. I just do this on the side.
Right.
I'm a guy who likes ribs. That's kind of the deal. He starts laughing. He goes, listen, man, I can tell by the way you've been talking these past few months that you've got a handle on this. He goes, so if you'd be willing, he goes, here's the deal I'll make you. I'll set you up with the ribs. You put the time and energy into it. And I'm like, you got a deal, man. Yeah, this sounds kind of fun. So I do this competition. And mind you, I did have a secret weapon, which was some rub that I had got out of a guy in Nebraska, not a well-known, just his own little, custom setup. I threw that on there. Excuse me. And I didn't do any sauce on mine whatsoever. Mine was smoked with that rub on it, and it was just the combination of woods that I used, in that process, and then finished them off slow cooking them in an oven wrapped up in foil to really get them where I wanted them. We came in second place. We lost to a local restaurant there, and this was, mind you, it was a crowd of 50 people that were walking through and sampling stuff. And we lost to this place that literally was bringing in these tubs. Their huge commercial smoker they had back at the restaurant was cooking them, and they were bringing them in here and setting them up for folks to go after. I knew that had I had a sauce of some kind there, I bet you we could have given them a run for their money. But the only saving grace that I got at the end of this thing, when we took second, I was blown away. But when they tried to hand me my prize money, I looked right at him as he was coming up the line. I'm like, you know what? Donate that back to the folks that we were doing this for. I just appreciate the deal. The owner of the restaurant sits here and looks at me, and I'm like, yep. I wonder how much time and energy you had to put into this. So let's see what you do. He did. He followed suit. He's like, go ahead and keep our winnings too.
Right.
I'm like, that's right, dude. You forget why we're here. It's to take care of someone else.
Right.
For the love of Pete.
The guy that I bought Johnny's from, like I said, he did a little bit of competition. He told me the night that I went out to his house, we had a couple beers, we were making our deal. And he told me that a competition that he went to, this one particular place, everybody had the trailers and the big, huge smokers and, thousands of dollars worth of equipment and probably 100 hours of time getting ready for that particular event. And he said late in the evening, just right before the cooks meeting, basically where you'd have been tossed out if you wouldn't have been there.
Right.
A few minutes later, this guy comes wheeling up with a cart. He had 2 Weber Smoky Mountains on it, and he didn't look like he had a dime to his name. Went over and set up, got him going. They found out later on that this guy was competing on one of the Weber Smoky Mountains and catering a wedding off the other one. And he won the whole thing. And he said, we all got taken to school that night by this guy that,
Well, and it goes to that point that it is an art form, right?
It is. And, the big thing that got me to where I could do barbecue the way I did was, my German grandmother, the one that has no idea how many tablespoons of this or teaspoons of that's in second. She said, it's just enough. You just put in enough. I'm like, well, how much is enough, Grandma? Well, until it tastes right. And she taught me how to cook by feel. And, the biggest thing whenever I try to talk to guys and rub off a little bit of knowledge on people is don't wrap the ribs at 165 or, do this at this time or this temperature. It's just, you've got to let it talk to you. You gotta see behind the scenes. You got to look at, the color and the fat render and what color's the fat. Is it yellowing? Is it, if you touch the bark, is it sticking to the meat? All those types of things. And that's how I've gotten to where I cook. And, my competition we did down in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, a guy. It was a People's Choice competition, so there was a lot of interaction with the crowd. There was no panel of judges like most of them are. And this guy said, after he had the ribs, he said, "How did you get to where these are so good?" He goes, he gave me these specific problems he was having. And I go, "I could tell you some stuff that would make me sound really fancy. It would make me sound like I really know what I'm doing by giving you all this technical information. But honestly, you need to screw up a couple hundred of them."
Yep.
That's the God honest truth.
Yep.
It's like everything else in life. I was watching a YouTube video today of those skilled worker people. This guy was throwing empty propane tanks from the ground up onto a trailer and stacking them. I mean, how many times do you think he had to throw that propane tank and not get hit on the head by one of them before he got it? And ribs and all barbecue and cooking, for that matter, is all the same way.
Right.
You know, I thought 50 slabs into my cooking experience, I knew what I was doing. And wow, I can tell you, 1,000 slabs in, Gene, I can tell you 300 ago were awful. You know,
nice, right?
Compared to what we know now, you know,
right. Well, you know, and it's the same with anything. I've coached sports, you know, for a lot of years till I retired from that era. It was 18 years of coaching different sports. One of the things we always try to teach these athletes is all you see is the success. What you didn't see was, you know, you saw the 3-time success, you know, 3-time champ. You didn't see the 30 times a champ failed at doing the same thing. That's what makes the success so sweet, is that it doesn't happen. You have to be willing to try and fail at anything, you know, in our sport of competitive fishing. It's never been more true in my mind. This is one of the most grueling mental. We go out and get our butt handed to us by something that's got the brain the size of a pinhead, you know, and it's kicking our butts 6 ways to Sunday. So there's a reason why you see very salty, grown, you know, bearded men break into tears when they do get that pinnacle win, you know, type thing, because it just takes such everything. And it sounds like, you know, it's very clear in the barbecue world. This is why these guys, you know, work so hard to get there, you know, for that very same. Or you try 151 times till you get it right, you know?
Right.
You know, so let's talk a little bit here. We know the sauce is on point. For the folks that don't know, you got a rub that's coming. We just got to dot the I's, cross T's, make sure Uncle Sam's happy, and of course they can get their cut. That rub, out of this world. We've posted about it a couple times out there. That salty pecan coffee rub base, phenomenal stuff. Folks at home going to love that. What led to, real quick, what led to a coffee based rub? I mean, what are we talking, Folgers here? What are we doing? How did it get there?
So, you know, in our earlier part of our conversation, you know, I was telling you about how I like North Carolina.
Okay.
Well, there's another part of barbecue that that has my heart as well, and it's Texas. Okay. I love Texas style barbecue. I love the salt and the pepper and the real rich, dark bark.
Okay.
And so the salty pecan is kind of my marriage of both, so to speak. So the coffee element came from, I got a sample pack from All Things Barbecue, and it had a rub in it called Smoky Chipotle, and it was a coffee rub. And I liked it, but to me, barbecue is simple. I don't like anything that's got 47 different ingredients in it. You know, I don't like anything that's got that cakes on, that's real powdery. I like a real heavy, granular type of rub. That way the smoke can penetrate the rub. I feel like it cakes if you put on a rub that just, you can't see the meat anymore and it's completely covered in whatever the rub is. It cakes up. I don't feel like you get the smoke penetration like you do on something that's the consistency of maybe like a Montreal steak seasoning, you know, where it's bigger stuff. So I liked that coffee rub. at its core, but maybe I just used it too much and I got tired of it. But I really kind of just went to, for a long time, I just went to just straight salt and pepper. Salt and pepper,
Yep.
Now, a lot of guys do 50-50. Texas is very, very 50-50. My tongue would fall out of my mouth if I did 50-50 salt. I can't do it. So I played around with those ratios, and then I thought, what if I tried to add that coffee in for a color sort of thing? Yeah. And that I remember one friend of mine, the first time he tried a coffee rub that I gave him, he's like, "No, that sounds terrible. No." And I thought, dude, I know it doesn't sound right. But just try it. It's not for everybody, but just try it. He loved it. So nice. I added in the coffee. The coffee gives a bark color like you wouldn't believe. If you put it on, like brisket style or pulled pork, or you're putting it on heavier than you would, something smaller.
Yep.
And it just really, really worked. And it gave a flavor that it was just outrageous.
Very unique.
Yeah. And then, so we were camping, and I was doing some ribs, started them real early because we were going to have them in the afternoon. And my buddy comes out of his camper with this pecan flavored coffee, and I could smell it from my camper. Wow. And it was like light bulb right there. I'm like, that's what I need in there. So
good stuff.
When we went to that competition in Tennessee, we actually were still developing it during the competition. We were changing up. We were doing so many ribs. We kept running out of everything and having to go back to the grocery store. These poor folks that put it on, God love them, because, people that put on events, I don't want to criticize, but they grossly underestimated how much product we'd need to bring with us.
Right.
They said, bring 100 pounds of ribs with you. Well, that was gone by noon the first day, and it was a 3-day event. So, not criticizing them, because they were all absolutely wonderful people, and it was their first time, and, you don't know what you don't know.
Sure.
So anyway, we all learned from that competition. But anyway, so as we were using this, it started off too salty. Next batch, we backed it off. We were playing around with ratios, and we were having people come up, and they were after they got to eat the rib, one guy, he took a bite and he just paused for a second. He said, "That taste is what I was smelling when I was walking up here." He could smell the rub in the air.
Yeah.
As it was cooking. And if you put that rub in a Ziploc bag, you don't have to open it to have somebody smell it. You can sniff it right through the bag.
That's awesome.
So if we have to go back to wearing masks for COVID, I'm gonna make one lined with that, so I can just smell pecan flavored coffee and salt all day.
Some little tea bags full of it, that you can put in your mask.
Right. Little, exchangeable, because the smell's probably gonna go away after a little while. Yeah. So
no, I can tell you, we've I played around with it. I did. I've done. So what have we done with it? I've did New York strip with it on there. We've done some pork chops with it. I did a London broil, and then the one that I got because like you said, you want to find the balance of how much to put on there. And I did a prime rib over the holidays with it on there, and holy buckets. And you could, we'd put the 151 on it, or you could put a little horseradish on there with that rub in there. It just matched perfectly. I had my son, my 20-year-old hockey player, was looking for those end pieces, man. That's what he wanted. He wanted with all, the most of the rub on there. That's what he was aiming for.
So we actually did one. I did a company Christmas party for a friend's company. Excuse me. And we did 2 smoked prime ribs, and then we seared them at the end to crust the outside, and then we did 2 briskets, and then I made horseradish sauce. And this is the second year in a row that I've done this for this guy, and he said, all my employees want your horseradish sauce. So I've got a phenomenal horseradish sauce recipe that I'd like to get, underneath the Ironborn brand, but I'm still new in this, and I've got to figure out, because when you're making a product that starts off cold and then you've got to make it shelf stable somehow and not kill everyone.
Right. That's handy.
Yeah,
that's handy.
Yeah, it's frowned upon when you sell something to somebody.
It greatly reduces your return customer contact if they're not there.
Right. The only way you can get away with that's if you're a politician.
Exactly.
So, and I'm not. So
then it would be somebody else's fault. So
right.
So this is good stuff, man. Now let's go ahead and spring into. We know how you met Brian, and got to that piece, and I consider Brian a very close friend of mine, a family level at this point. After he and I sharing so many things, I've seen what he's given to the foundation with his family, what his entire family gives to the foundation. That this man dedicated his life to serving others in the United States Marine Corps, and just continues that on now. In everything he does. And he's always looking at that next level. Brian's a very, very good, lost him, ladies and germs, hang tight here. We'll see if we can get him back. We're going to see if we can get him a link and get him back in here. Bear with us here. Dooby-dooby-dooby-doo. Technical difficulties of going not even live. Crazy stuff, huh? Oh, here he is. One sec. There you are.
There we go.
Yeah, we lost you there.
It just went completely dead on us.
Yeah, it did. It said, "See ya." Yeah. So at any rate, Brian, is very much a visionary. He sees things where other people don't see them, and he flat out came to me and is like, "Got to talk to this guy. You got to meet Brian. Q Inc. We need to work together with this guy in any way we can, because he's one of the good ones." And I, first thing, of course, I asked him, I was like, "Well, all right, what branch did he serve?" And he goes, "He didn't. He's like Eugene. He's a patriot that wants to give back in any way he can." He's like, and he's brand new as a startup here. So, the sky's the limit type thing. And so what brought you to that point, being willing to come on board with the foundation, come on board with, you and I are going to be working, we're going to have Q Inc. Cost our kayaks and our truck, and, doing our part to take care of those that take care of everybody out there. What led you on that path? Do you have family that served, or what brought you to that level?
So you and I talked about this one other time. So I actually, when I was younger, teenage years, I actually had it in my heart to join the military, and life happened in a bunch of different arenas for me, and it ended up not working out for me to join the military. And my nephew served in the Navy. He was on a security detail, and everyone in his immediate group, I'm not familiar with what they're called. If they're called a squad in his group, I'm not sure.
In the Navy, it's a company. Yep.
Everyone in his company,
at least in boot camp, it is.
Yeah. Everyone in his company except him has committed suicide.
Oh my gracious.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like, having my heart with the military, and it didn't work out for me. And then seeing what he's gone through and some of his struggles, I kind of feel like this is how I serve.
Right.
I don't serve the military. I don't serve the nation. I want to serve the guys that served.
The men and women. Absolutely.
Because everybody talks about, what did you do for your country? What did you do for the military? What did you do for law enforcement? When are we going to talk about what are you doing for those guys?
Yep.
So,
I try to teach my kids this is that the reason I respect the flag, the reason that I consider myself a patriot is not because of some government. Okay. We've lost sight of, the government being of the people, by the people. When I look at a flag, the United States of American flag, when I see that flag, I don't see a government. I don't see left. I don't see right. I'm no quiet mouse when it comes to me saying Republicans, Democrats, you have failed all of us, flat out. And I believe that 100% wholeheartedly. That's a different podcast. When I see the flag, I see the men, women, and the families that have agreed to serve something bigger than themselves. Now, too many times, unfortunately, politicians and bureaucrats decide what they go do, but at the end of the day, it's their sacrifice, their service, so that you and I can do what we do. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You can sit around and lab up some amazing, culinary genius. I go chase brown and green fish around the country and get on the air and do this stuff.
And neither
it's
one of us have to worry about getting shot at while we're
right.
doing
And it's because of those families, those men, those women that have, agreed. And that goes for our veterans, our first responders. They don't, one of the litmus tests, if you will, that I throw at people is, I give them a question. There is a victim laying in the middle of the road. Clearly they need help. What's your first question? What's your first move? And almost anybody who's not of that cloth, well, how old are they? And what do they, what do they look like? Are they male? Are they female? Those folks from that cloth don't care. They render aid. That's their first move, is that I get in there and help them. And when I try to teach people that, you understand, that's what I'm talking about, is those folks that don't care what you do, what you say, what you do for a living, or what, how much money you got, or what, how many followers you have. They help first, and then they take backlash later, from idiots. But nevertheless, that piece there is where, what got us the name of the True Patriot Outfitters. And that's what went after you and I spoke, Brian. I could tell from day one, this guy is absolutely a true patriot through and through. And this is what leads us here, man. To one point, just to correct here, company for the U.S. Navy is what you get assigned to when you go to boot camp in the U.S. Navy. I'm not sure that could be 80 people for all we know. I'm not sure what your nephew was, what you were referring to.
He was
there,
in a small group, like 5 or 6 guys is the group that he was in.
Some detail of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is too, one is too many, but to hear all of them, that's what sprung our Stop 22 tour. Stephen Cochran and another gentleman, founded that thing, that got us going there. And that's why we push so heavy on that. I
really hope that I can get my nephew to come into this group in some way, shape, or form.
Come out to a concert, do one of the retreats that we're going to have set up there. I guarantee you, one way or another, hell or high water, I'm bringing the bass buggy out there with the yak wagon behind it. And we're coming out to you because we got some fishing to do.
Yes.
Is your nephew in that neck of the woods there?
He's about an hour south of me, so not real far.
Perfect. Yeah, to a guy like me, an hour is just a jump, man. That is nothing.
Yeah,
hour time.
As much as you travel, that's nothing.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, we'll absolutely we'll get him out fishing there, put him in a kayak there. He'll be spoiled once he's in one of these new canoe unlimiteds, man. They're a heck of a craft. We love it. Well, listen, Brian, I can't thank you enough for coming on here and sharing your craft, your art. Q151 is phenomenal. I can't wait to try some of the Johnny's, that other stuff, especially you were talking, you got some stuff in the works clearly, that's coming down the line here. And it's just a matter of time once we dot I's, cross T's. Was there anything, that I missed, in the question line here, or did we cover pretty much all the stuff you wanted to cover here?
I think we covered everything. I just want to take a second to, thank Brian and you and the Romans Warriors Foundation, True Patriot Outfitters, and really thank you guys because, for people like me, there aren't a lot of other people out there that feel that same way that you can reach out to and form a brotherhood that doesn't necessarily have to be, the brotherhood that the military guys had, but just brotherhood of patriots.
That's right. Like Brian warns people that, dude, be careful. Once you're part of the RWF family, you're never not.
Right.
Once we're all together, it's Griswold from here on out, man.
Yeah,
we're in this thing.
He told me the morning at because the competition that we did was a whole weekend. The morning after I met him, we were talking a little bit, and he said, make sure you're ready. He goes, because when we pull you up hard. So
he's not lying. He's not lying. There isn't a day go by that he doesn't motivate me to keep going. We go to these events with the wall, the Stop 22, the retreat, the field ops, anything that we do there together. All it takes, man, is to see it one time. Watch what happens in one healing instance. And that's that motivator for you for the entire year. I mean, we'd all be lying if we sat there and said, this is easy. Okay, this taxes all of us quite a bit to keep going. We don't know how we're going to make it half the time, 4 or 5 months down the line. But we know one way or another we're going to. And that's just that. We're going to keep moving. We're going to find other folks out there that, get behind us, that see the stuff. So yeah, man, that's it's part of the whole deal that goes through this. Folks, when you get a chance, get out, check QIncorporated.com, check out the sauce. You're going to thank us later for this. I promise you. Be watching close. We got some cool apparel coming down the line. They'll be having stuff in their catalog. Brian and I will figure out some stuff, see if we can even throw it up at the True Patriot Outfitters, throw some of their cool apparel up there, get you some of that sauce responsibly. That was phenomenal. And thank you, Brian, for giving me words like mop sauce, slather. I already had slather and drizzle. I mean, this is part of the barbecue community, man, and I'm going to be starting using these things.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just here to help.
If we get making our own tackle, I can flat out see, using some of these things, the mop sauce, bug. That's or right. Something.
That's right.
That is.
Yeah, we'll have to put on the back of one of your shirts, we'll have to put Sauce Whisperer on it sometime.
That's right. Yeah, I'm definitely not on the front because I widen everything on the front quite a bit.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Listen, man, thank you so much for stopping by, folks. Make sure smash that subscribe. Tell your friends and your family about this. Share this thing across all the socials when you see it out there. You can catch the podcast on all major venues that you can find out there, except Apple. We're not going to pay for it. Apple can they can go pay for their own stuff, but you can catch us on the iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, where the podcast is pretty much everywhere out there. And help us by those likes and follows. Brian, thank you, brother. We appreciate you stopping by, and I'm looking forward to 2023 and seeing what kind of cool stuff we can get into out there.
Thank you, Gene. I appreciate you having me. And if anybody of you out there become one of my customers, I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Awesome.